A paragraph again, page 957. The boatman unties the man's hands and actually drowns him in the ocean. The moment he is drowned, he realizes that I myself am the ocean. Now, instead of remaining in the ocean, he surfaces and takes command of the boat, over which previously he had no control, but which now comes under his control, and he begins to move it wherever he wishes. During this period.
Okay. During this period, Baba directed that a tennis court be laid out at Meherabad, which he played on himself on August 28th. Baba would regularly participate in cricket matches with the mandali. Through August, Meher Baba would often go to Ahmednagar to visit his devotees. During one occasion on August 30th, he explained the difference between the powers of a God-realized master and a yogi. Divine miracles are really attributed to avatars, sadgurus or realized human beings, while occult powers belong to yogis. The former is the outcome of extremely high and unselfish motives, while the latter is the mainspring. The mainspring is invariably the worst kind of selfishness. An avatar or sadguru performs miracles which he intends to give a general push to the world towards spirituality. But a yogi generally enacts his supernatural powers to serve his own ends. For example, a child is tightly holding a parrot by the neck to the point of strangling it. Now, in order to save the bird's life, it will not be advisable to try to snatch it from the hands of its young captor, because there is a chance of his tightening his grasp. The child must therefore be offered a coin, which will make him let go of his hold on the parrot. In this instance, the offering of the coin means performing a miracle, and saving the parrot from the child's grip means saving the mind from ignorance and Maya's grip. Such is the way of the avatars and sadgurus. However, if a yogi sees a very beautiful woman and desires her, he will materialize gold jewelry in order to attract her. It is evident that there is a world of difference between the motives involved in both these actions. To give another example, a man has put on spectacles of white glass which makes him see everything white, though in reality all things are colorless. A yogi's powers consist in putting red or green spectacles before the man's eyes, and to the man's amazement everything appears red or green. Sadguru, knowing that everything has no color, not even white, and that everything is nothing, does not believe in wasting time over changing the color of glasses. He works towards removing a man's spectacles that he is wearing, thereby enabling a person to see things as they are. However, the yogi only adds to the illusion which the person sees by putting yet another pair of glasses before his eyes. Sailor's wife, Naja, arrived from Pune the next day to enroll their son, Dinshaw, in the Mer ashram. Baba had held Dinshaw after he was born and would refer to him as his disciple. During the months of August, September and October 1927, Baba supervised the activities of the Hazrat Babajan High School and Meher Ashram, in which more than 170 boys were now enrolled. Baba would play games with the boys and teach them Persian, dictating from his alphabet board. In the evenings, Ramjoo often read Sexton Blake to Baba, and sometimes Baba would play a game of chess with Gunny. I gotta read some Sexton Blake now.
Sexton Blake? Have you ever read any?
No.
I have all the Nero Wolf books.
Yeah, it's all the, yeah.
I bought one of those, because Baba wanted all of them.
Yeah. I've never read any of that. I've been reading the P.G. Woodhouse. That's what I've been reading lately.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really funny.
The most fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, you're pretty going to get... I want to try to see if I can find some. These are like really early detective books, you know. Yeah. 3 of the boys, Jamshed, Burjur and Ardashir, would frequently sing for Baba. Occasionally, Baba would form 2 teams, himself, Dake and Kaka Shahan, versus Ghani, Ramjoo and Chanji, to play chess against each other. The rest of the men would watch these chess matches attentively And thus, in one way or another, Baba would keep the mandali in his presence each evening. Almost every night, Baba would go to Meherabad ashram to see that the boys were well covered with blankets, covering any youngster who may have kicked off his blanket in his sleep. 2 watchmen were kept in the boys' dormitory with strict instructions to be attentive to the children's needs. Snakes were still occasionally found on the property, and so if a boy rose during the night to relieve himself, one of the watchmen had to escort him outside. Besides supervising the school activities, the master's daily routine of giving public darshan and attending the bhajan and kirtan music programs continued. Meherabad presented quite an animated sense of activity of several hundred people. Divine breezes were blowing through Meherabad, gently caressing the hearts of those living there, whose smiling tears spread beauty's fragrance everywhere. Now this is I need to just stop on Meherabad for a moment. It does feel, you know what I mean, it's becoming more quiet now. You know, because not that many people live there anymore. Like Mansari was the main one who lived right there.
Yeah, you know, it's becoming almost
It's
just
like a ghost town.
Well, it's all relics now. It's historic, archival buildings now. Mansari's kitchen is now visited by people just to get the feeling of what it was like. And did anybody here ever meet Mansari?
Yeah,
did we all meet Mansari?
Yeah, except for Sam.
Hasn't been. So you met Mansari?
Of course.
So you see, isn't that we're so fortunate because those coming, and then there's talk, of course, one day the threshold will be as far as you can come into the samadhi, just the outside area there. You bow down, I guess.
Right.
And only maybe on special days they may.
I don't know if it'll ever be once it's sealed.
Sealed, in other words.
Are they going to actually seal the samadhi itself?
Yeah.
Is that what you heard?
Well, there'll be like a glass.
Because they feel too many people.
There'll be so many people,
well, I guess they'll leave the door open with glass. You can see into it and bow down right at it.
At the threshold.
Yeah.
Wow.
When are they talking about doing that?
Well, apparently they already started working on the plans for the superstructure.
Oh yeah, they've got the plans
for
it. They have the plans.
I guess, how many people do they expect this year at Amartithi? 20,000 or so? More than that?
Closer to 30, I would. Probably more like 30,000, yeah.
How many were last year, Pam?
Like 17, I think.
Oh, 17. Really?
As far as the numbers of
That
people that went
stayed.
and were able to take darshan,
Acha.
because they had the numbers.
They had like a clicker.
That was how they worked it. Well, no, they worked at people getting in line.
Oh.
You got a number.
Oh, yes.
And then you could go and do whatever you wanted until your number and your caller was called. So
That was a smart way of doing it because the queues used to be, 12 hours long?
Right.
And now they were like, the maximum was like 2 hours.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
I think
a good idea.
By that tick,
That's
that
how
counting,
they engage the number.
But there may have been more people that weren't.
It felt like a lot, I tell you.
Yeah.
But it's non-stop queue, though. I mean, you can go away, but then you come back and your queue then goes for 2-3 hours.
Now, did Eric go behind Baba's cabin and was he welcoming people there last year?
He was greeting people last year.
Yeah.
He,
You
Oliver.
couldn't hug him. You couldn't embrace him last year. The year before you were able to.
I filmed that for hours, and I should have filmed by Mansari too, but I didn't think she would go. Do you know what I mean? It was because people would go to the samadhi, then they would go to the cabin, then they would go to Erich, then they would go to Mansari, and it was like.
No, it's very few left.
Yeah.
Pam was with Mansari up till the very end.
Yeah.
Like the very end, you were there when you were in the room. When
No.
You weren't there in the room, no. But you were there.
It must be Kennedy, then.
Where is Kennedy?
He had a Martin Luther King Day function,
Right.
some kind of group or something where he was asked to participate today. In fact, he tried to talk me into...
The boys' schedule at the Meherabad ashram was as follows. 5 a.m. Rise from bed. Can you hear me okay? After washing, they were to chant the 7 names of God prayer. This prayer was also sung before each meal in the dining hall. 6:30 a.m. Breakfast of chapatis, tea and milk. 7:15 a.m. After cleaning up the dormitory and picking up their books, they started school. 12 p.m. Lunch of rice and dal. Each boy had his own plate, spoon and mug with a number on it. Sometimes the boys would help with the dishes. Study period was held in the dormitory. Excuse me. Afternoon. Games of field hockey, cricket, ping pong, gilli danda and atyapatya. From September 3rd, the boys were allowed to play on the tennis court. Where is the tennis court?
Probably was a dirt court.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's amazing tennis court though. Every other day the boys took a bath, same as today. And their clothes were laundered. Each boy's clothes were numbered. 2 to 5 p.m., classes again. 5:30 to 6:30, games. Dinner of fresh baked bread and vegetables. 7 to 8 p.m., special class on a spiritual discourse or discussion headed by the master. 8 p.m., bedtime. Baba treated all 170 boys in the ashram school equally. Whenever any of the wealthier boys would receive packages of cookies or chocolates from home, Baba would have the package divided among all, thus treating rich and poor alike. If the package sent by a parent was not sufficient, it would be kept until other packages arrived, so that there would be enough sweets for each child to receive an equal share. The instruction in the Hazrat Babujan High School was adapted to conform with university regulations. Baba's inner work in the students was being done simultaneously. Besides their regular courses such as English, history, geography, and mathematics, spiritual subjects were also being taught from various mystical writings or scriptures. The schedule for the 3 language groups of students, Marathi, Gujarati, and Persian, was as follows.
You know, I want to basically comment here. I didn't hear any salads. These boys didn't eat much roughage, though.
No.
Unless, I guess, the chapatis and breads.
They got the bread
were
and
fiber.
Yeah.
Because it was a simple breakfast. What was it? Chapati,
tea and milk.
Tea and milk.
Yeah.
Lunch was dal and rice. Supper, vegetables and bread. What do they call fresh baked bread? Is that probably just flat bread? It's probably not bread as we know.
No, it's not a big old loaf of fluffy bread.
It's like unleavened
Indian bread.
It's like just like almost a pita or something.
And maybe bhakri. Who knows?
But they call it bread.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear any roughage. There's no oranges or fruit.
No apples.
Well, it doesn't
I didn't hear any fruits.
I'm sure there were fruits with prasad. I'm sure there were.
There must be fruit. There must be getting fruit.
Yeah. But
They probably got like bananas.
What's the dinner?
Vegetables and bread.
Yeah, that's the poor people's food.
Yes. But in those days, I mean, you probably didn't eat much vegetables salads as a kid. So
No,
we didn't
no. That's true. These kids don't like
rice.
Kids push them away. And the vegetables probably were cooked.
Yeah, kids want fish sticks and tater tots.
But you guys, your generation, did you guys eat salads?
Yeah.
Every meal?
Yeah.
Every meal?
Not every
but every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Over there at his place in India?
No. When you were growing up.
When we were growing up.
States.
Did you eat salads when you were growing up? Greens? You don't eat greens in Malaysia? You don't eat greens?
We do, but not. Yeah, it's not common.
Yeah,
we do, but it's not common.
I mean, but for instance, in our family, there was always fresh fruit on the table. Always fresh fruit.
Yeah, fresh fruit we did have.
It was always there.
That was a snack, though.
That was like, but I mean, that was like the roughage that we had. It was always, you know what I mean? It's like if you wanted a snack, there was no candy, just fresh fruit.
Fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have candy really.
Yeah.
But we had salad. Fresh.
Salad almost every day.
Every day.
In India?
No,
In the U.S.
Growing up.
US.
Because I'm just thinking that in the olden days, it wasn't as common as it is.
No.
It's probably harder to transport and keep fresh and do all that with it. Like nowadays,
I think hygiene is probably better now.
Hygiene's better too, but it's like if you lived in Minnesota, You live in Minnesota and it's wintertime, you can go buy some lettuce that was grown here in California.
So expensive,
Spend $5.
It's expensive, but you can get it. You know, you can, it's there. Or restaurants, you can have a salad any restaurant. And
either Mexican or California.
But you lived in Minnesota?
No.
He's giving an example.
I'm just saying as an example. In North Carolina, I lived.
People in the Midwest don't get the produce because of the winter months, so they have to import it from other states, temperate states.
Florida.
Because in England, we used to always joke, when you go to people's house, they offer you a grape. Fruit is so expensive, With us, it just grew.
That's another country where salads is not popular.
Exactly. Anything in the north.
Pot pies, I remember.
Peas. That's about all the green they get.
And potatoes, chips.
Fish and chips.
Yeah, fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
England, they do have lettuce.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying it's not as commonly.
As it is here?
Well, I'm saying it's part of their diets. No. Anyway. So now.
So this is going to be the language groups, languages as follows. Speaking of which, I'm thinking I'd like to learn Hindi.
They have to learn 3-4 languages.
No, but here they gave it. They don't give it in Hindi. Marathi, Gujarati, and Persian. So Mondays in Marathi, Gujarati, and Persian. Study of Meherabad's printed discourses. Tuesdays, Marathi. Utterances of different Hindi saints and Sadgurus. Vinyangeshwar, Swami Ramthe, Swami Ramdas from the Dashtova, Tukaram, and Vivekananda. Gujarati, utterances of different Muslim and Hindu perfect masters. Kos Ali Shah, Swami Ramthe, Vivekananda, or Upasni Maharaja's biography. Persian, utterances of Sufi and Hindu masters. Jalaluddin Rumi, Ghaus Ali Shah, Ibrahim Adham, Muhammad Ghazali, Swami Ramthe. I keep really talking about this guy, Vivekananda, or other Persian writings. Wednesdays, Marathi, selections from the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Sufi literature, verses of Prophet Zarathustra from the Avesta.
Now, let me get something straight.
Yes.
This is categorized for those that listen or speak this language.
Yes.
This isn't all the students. No. It's just your language is, and these dates are what they cover.
Yes. But it's pretty much the same. Each is from different spiritual literatures.
Yeah, but if you understood Persian, you would be given those of the Islamic tradition, and then the others are from Hindi or the Indian tradition.
Yeah, Gujarati is usually Muslim and Hindu, but Marathi is the only one. It's just pretty much Hindu.
So then the teachers, of course, were either the mandali or paid staff people. This is amazing. Can you imagine a high school and grade school teaching this to children, at a real formal method? It's amazing.
Did you guys go to a Catholic school or anything like that? Did you have religious education?
I did. I was Catholic.
Yeah, you kind of gone to Catholic?
No, I'm not Catholic.
But you went to a religious school.
I was brought up in going to church.
Yeah.
Just public school.
But you had religious education.
In high school, I went to a religious high school. I went to a religious high school, boarding school, yeah. Where you had chapel every morning.
What was the name of that school?
Oak Hill Academy in Virginia.
So you wore like a uniform?
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. You had to dress. They had like the little thing. You had to dress, but we didn't have to wear it. It wasn't hyper strict. It was the set. It was. I graduated in 1980, so
the Bible Belt, the South.
Yeah, it was the Bible Belt, the South.
But like for instance, you and I, in Catholic school, had religious education first thing every morning. Right? That was the first thing every morning.
It was Mass. Mass was every day. It was optional except on Friday.
Pardon me.
Friday was communion.
Yeah.
And I remember we were allowed to bring our little brown bag lunch for have breakfast because you were not supposed to eat before communion.
Right.
And after
3 hours,
my mother would bake me 2 hard-boiled eggs with toast wrapped in tinfoil. Wow. And so I'd be so starved. I'd be eating about 9 o'clock because Mass ends about 1:15. And so you're eating, and the teachers would give you the blessing to eat.
Wow.
Because, you went to communion.
Yeah. No, those were tough days where you had to fast for 3 hours.
Yeah. I think now they've waived that.
Yes, they have. I think it's 1 hour.
I think you can take communion,
I think maybe it's 1 hour. But I used to enjoy the, religious studies. I would have liked this because I read all the stuff, the Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. Wednesdays, Marathi, selection from the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Sufi literature, verses of Prophet Zarathustra from the Avesta. Gujarati, selections from the Dasatir, Ilm-e Kashnum, and verses of Zarathustra on the principles of life. Persian, selections from Dasatir, Hafiz, Ghaznavi, Shamsi Tabriz, Washad-e-Nayad, and Zoroastrian scriptures. Boy, I got this tough. Maybe you want to take over Thursday? Maybe easy, I can manage it. Thursdays, Marathi, spiritual knowledge, Christian secret knowledge, Gnostic, Islamic secret knowledge, Sufism, Kathas, Gohar, or Sufi literature. Gujarati, spiritual knowledge, Christian secret knowledge, Sufi literature, Islamic secret knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, Ilm-e-Isad, knowledge or contemplation of God, or Kabir's poetry. Man, this is awesome. Persian, spiritual knowledge, Tasawwur-e-Ispi, Tasawwur-e-Islam, Tasawwur-e-Kabir, Talimat-e-Sufi, Sufi teachings, or Ilm-e-Ilahi, knowledge of God. Friday, same schedule as on Thursday. Saturdays, Marathi, Gujarati, and Persian. Biographies of avatars or masters, Zarathustra, Gautama the Buddha, Jesus the Christ, Prophet Muhammad, Chaitanya, Khwaja Sahib Chisti, Sri Ramakrishna, Tukaram, the Christian missionary Francis Xavier, or Hazrat Azar Kaiwan, a Zoroastrian master. Persian only, the poetry of Nausar-e-Khusrau and Selavi, the accounts of God-realized persons. Negar-e-Shat-e-Khuda, Rasid-e-Gan, Shar-e-Khwaja Chisti. Sundays, Marathi, Gujarati, and Persian. Study of different religions of the world. Persian only. Falsaf-e-Mazhab-e-Alam, philosophy of world religions. Okay, there it is. Looking for a handover. This schedule, however, was in reality superfluous. It was merely the curriculum of external instruction, a means to a deeper end, a spiritual education. The real education was being imparted through Meher Baba's own person, his company and contact, the medium for which was his silence. This teaching, hidden in silence, has no language, nor can it be written or learned. It is to be felt and is given only by a God-conscious master. As the monsoon rains had still not fallen in Ahmednagar on September 9th, a group of people came to Baba at Meherabad, praying for rain. Adike Irani asked Baba, "There are floods elsewhere in India. Why is there no rains in Ahmednagar?" Baba only smiled and would not reply. I'll go ahead and get off here.
This right here?
Yeah, from the
Top of
other
the
page, yeah.
Okay. Sitting beside the Duni the next day, Adi repeated his question and requested Baba to produce rain. Baba immediately took off his woolen kamli coat. As soon as Baba did this, clouds began gathering in the sky and a heavy rain fell which continued throughout the night. There was a footnote there, so 964. Footnote was, Meher Baba's kamli coat was the woolen coat he would always wear even during the hot summer. So as soon as Baba took it off, it began to rain. Baba put the coat back on the next morning, and though still cloudy, it did not rain that day. Baba remarked to the mandali, "You won't be able to understand the significance of the taking off and putting on of this coat." During September 1927, Baba would either stay in the jokdi, sit on the seat near the table cabin, or walk up to Meherabad Hill. Most of his time would be spent with the boys, although he was simultaneously supervising the minutest details of the everyday life of the several hundred people living at Meherabad. So at that time there were around 500 people, I think.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it was like a village. It was and Baba, the food served in the Hazrat Babajan High School was very plain. One day, Adi Jr. complained to Pindu, who was the manager of the kitchen. "We have the same rice and dal every day. Can't you get me some spicy pickle or chutney?" Pindu told him that he had no pickle, but he could give him an onion. It was not much, but Adi accepted it and relished it with his lunch that day. Somehow Baba found out and was furious with Pindu and Adi. Pindu tried to excuse Adi, saying it was not his fault, but Baba kept repeating, "Why did he eat it?" He then called his youngest brother and scolded him. "Aren't you ashamed to eat an onion when the other boys don't get any? You are taking undue advantage here because you are my brother. Being my brother doesn't make you an exception. You have to eat what the other boys eat. Who are you to have an extra onion? This is not befitting." That's great. Who are you to have an extra onion? Baba called all the boys and berated Adi in front of them. He made Adi stand before them and then ridiculed him. "He is my brother, but he is a thief. He ate an onion without my permission." Baba signaled to Datu, Adi's closest friend and roommate, to step forward and spit in Adi's face. Datu was so taken aback that he did not know what to do. Baba snapped at him to do it. Datu stepped forward nervously and did as instructed. Adi was humiliated, but Baba consoled him. "Now you have become my brother. Those who obey me are related to me and not otherwise." On September 14th, Zarathustra...
Hold on. I just picked up on something. Even though Adi was born through Shireen, maybe until that moment, you know what I mean? He didn't you follow me?
Yeah.
He didn't really see him as his brother. He just saw him as another soul who came into the world and was his brother by birth, but not really, his brother by, like a real deep connection of brothers, because he said that. It's like the spitting in his face was almost an initiation to be like blood brothers. It's just my own take on it. It's like
I understand. Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He said, "Those who obey me are related to me and not otherwise."
Wow.
That's heavy. It also always blows my mind how Baba used the most just seemingly trivial sets of circumstances to do his work. I mean, this whole onion thing.
Yeah.
What is remarkable? Every day in Baba's life that's written in these books is so busy.
Every day.
I mean, one day in Baba's life is almost equivalent, I think, to some people's, lifetime. I mean, it seems like how intricately he's involved with individuals and doing things and constantly changing, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like one day is almost like equivalent to a person's lifetime in regard to decisions and movement. And you know what I mean? It blows me away. I mean, how... And he would never keep hardly anything as far as, buildings or whatever. Most of them were built and then taken down.
Dismantled, moved, destroyed. On September 14th, Zarathustra's birthday was celebrated and Baba was given the usual ceremonial bath. He and a group of the mandali went to Dak's house in Ahmednagar the following day, and he explained about the circle and its preparation. The 14 members of the circle of a sadguru are God realized without having to consciously pass through the plains and incur the risks of faltering midway, for the sadguru takes them through these plains in the dark. Those persons in the circle who have duties and are to come down should first of all be wiped clean of all their sin scars. Otherwise, there's the risk of their becoming unconscious of the world, entering the majzub state after realization. One of the mandali asked Baba why he was delaying the preparation of the circle and not giving them realization immediately. He explained, "The time will come But that time depends on the person's sanskars being entirely burned up, and that is a gradual process. Although a sadguru is a furnace and can burn up all the sanskars in a breath, he does not do so for obvious reasons, and they are very sound reasons too. The main reason Baba meant was that the person would not be able to come down and regain consciousness of the three worlds of illusion. Someone then asked Baba why he was not allowing anyone to read his book in which he claimed he revealed hitherto unknown spiritual truths. Baba explained, "One must be prepared to read what I have written. It would be dangerous in one respect. If this intellectual knowledge is imparted, at times the desire for God realization and experiencing that state vanishes, and the aspirant is only satisfied with what he knows intellectually or sees. Then the desire for union does not remain as keen. Suppose there is a vast treasure, or something of great worth beyond imagination, and there is a curtain between your room and it. This reading and intellectual knowledge would be equal to a literal explanation given by the one who has seen or experienced these things. You yourself don't see the treasure behind the curtain, but have only read about it or heard it described." The next day at Meherabad, while explaining why the Avatar or Christ always has a person like Judas among his disciples, Baba drew a circle on the ground with his finger, and keeping his finger on the circumference of the circle, he disclosed, "Lord Ram had his Ravana, Jesus had Judas. One of the 12 men in the circle is always like that. Suppose my finger was a compass. I, as the master, am the point in the middle, and the outside ring is my circle. Now observe what happens when the circle is complete and the compass is stationary. The pencil is still on one point of the circle. The one who is under the point shouts, 'That is Judas.' 11 members of the circle are God realized during my lifetime. The 12th after I die. He, my Judas, being the dark side of me, realizes me after I have physically departed."
So that was
Gustaji?
the dark side.
Well, Gustaji Baba said, but Baba didn't say he was the Judas.
Who is
though.
the Judas?
Baba never said.
Who is the Judas? Does anyone know? Do you know?
Well, I don't know.
Well, Gustaji was the dark side.
Well,
Baba did say that
Baba
Gustaji was the dark
represented-
side.
But what Baba is saying about realization, it's like...
No, but he said Ravana was to Rama and Judas to Jesus. Now, who?
Baba never said.
But it's always, they say, it's a very important person in the circle. But if, like, Ravana was the one who, he's the one that took Sita captive from Ram.
He really wasn't in the circle, though.
Well, how could it be somebody?
Well,
like,
we don't. Yeah, but he was, according to Baba
could
here.
it be,
He was.
Right, well,
could it be
obviously,
somebody like Meredith Starr?
No.
Could it be someone like Elizabeth
No.
who drove the car that Baba crashed?
Well, it could have been Mani, because he's saying there at the end that this...
Ooh,
well,
Mani.
Wow. He just said that this other one gets it, because Mani doesn't get realization from the next birth.
So in other words, what you're saying,
Well, you could
he
read the last sentence there.
Could you read that last sentence about the realization?
11 members of the circle are God realized during my lifetime.
No, wait.
The 12th after I die.
No, wait. So, are you telling me that some of these mandali that we embrace already got realized, and they're veiled?
You know what? This is the interesting thing, though. Baba's circle is like when one dies, another replaces him. Do you know what I mean? Like many of Baba's early disciples died, but they were always replaced by another one. Do you know?
Well, what I'm confused though. Isn't there 12 intimate ones?
Wow.
The most intimate ones,
Yeah.
like Christ had the 12.
Right.
There's 12
There are
of
12 on
Baba's
the inner
most
circle.
intimate ones.
Right.
Then there's the other, it goes to 120, in fact,
Right.
according to Ronald Gailey's depiction of Baba's layers. But the thing is, according to that then, so these people are God realized while Baba's still alive in his body. But they're probably veiled if they're God
11
realized.
members of the circle are God realized.
So most
during my
likely, I would
lifetime.
say Erich is God realized. And so you've been hugging Erich all these years. And you're hugging a God realized being, but he's veiled. He's veiled from it because he has his function to do They call
wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, like Bao says.
I don't think
they have these special sanskars that they have as mandali members.
The yogi.
Yeah, the yogi. And I think when you hug Mani, Mani will be realized the next birth, I guess.
Yeah, but Mani was really an appendage. So
But then you have a Loba who probably is God realized. You've hugged him, Balnath too, Baoji. You see, all these people that you've hugged could be one of those God realized 11. So isn't that amazing? The fortunate experiences we've had. I mean, I'd like to clarify that.
Well, it's tricky. 11 members of the circle are God realized during my lifetime, not necessarily during their lifetime, but during Baba's lifetime. And who's to say that those members of that circle were with him even?
And what is his lifetime? Does his lifetime pertain to his advent, which is 700 years, or is it
his physical lifetime?
I don't know.
No.
Baba says so many
it's his physical lifetime, because his last statement here is, he, my Judas, being the dark side of me, realizes me after I have physically departed.
Who could be his Judas? I know, somebody once told me this story, who the Judas is, and I was astonished, and I forgot. Isn't that funny? I forgot. Because
maybe you aren't supposed to remember.
Yeah. It was told in India. I mean, we were talking about comparing who's Peter, who's John, who's Paul, all these people. And Bao was apparently Paul, isn't he?
Bao was John.
John.
Bao was John.
And Erich was Peter.
Oh, yes, that definitely. John. I thought Paul was a scribe.
Well, John, because
John wrote one of the Gospels.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew, Mark,
But if you look at the early disciples, like this whole circle, like Gustaji, he died during Baba's lifetime. Gani, he too died in Baba's lifetime. Dadachanji. There were so many of these early guys that died.
There were a lot of people.
Yes.
Oh, so they
because
they could have been realized then.
Yeah.
They could have been realized.
But all these early guys from the early 20s that were with Baba since then, Adi.
Bailey.
Yes, Bailey, I went to school with Baba.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, Eri sort of came later, and then
Baba came very late.
Yes, Baba didn't come to the 50s. Right. But also...
Erich came 38.
Yeah. But also Francis Brabazon, and he did become a mandali member. But it seemed like when a mandali would die, there would be another one that would come and join the circle, sort of thing.
Well, Baba was in the body.
Right.
Not afterwards.
No.
But also, you remember, it's like you remember it. I mean, at the end there weren't a whole lot of people living at Meherabad and Meherabad.
At the end of Baba's life?
In 69.
69.
Compared to the 500 we're talking about that lived there.
Well, yeah.
It had already. It was. I mean, I'm sure people then were like we're saying now, it's changed. There's no one here anymore. I bet back then,
it was.
Padre was like, it's not like it was. It's all kind of gone. It's slowed down now, and everybody's gone.
Remember that time when was it Baba going the New Life, and Erich stayed back? Didn't he not?
No. Erich went
after
on
the New Life.
What was the tour where Erich didn't go?
It was the U.S. after
tour.
the New Life.
The U.S. tour, and Erich was sort of really shook up about it.
He was wiped out, and he thought it would be a burden.
In other words, he was so worn out that Baba asked him to go, and he said, "Oh, I'm so tired." But Baba gave him some duty then.
He had him travel around India.
But Baba said...
Send him to Andhra.
Oh, that's right. That's where he says...
That's when he went to start telling people about Baba.
Right. Yeah, he said that's where they wouldn't let him sleep. They would arrive, and then they would try to go to sleep, and people would sleep in the same room with them, and they'd say, "Please tell us another story." And it would go on and on through the night. And they couldn't ever deny them. Anyway, but that's a good question to ask, though. And it's a sensitive question too, to say who is the Judas, because that's the Judas was that person.
And it could be, who knows? But in that sense of like talking about Lord Ram had Ravana and Jesus is Judas, there really wasn't anyone really who served that role of betraying Baba on that level.
Right. Well, there was
real obvious
there was Mehra's uncle who was
Colonel Irani,
who was really against Baba. You know, in that sort of sense. You know what I mean? It's like it's so funny.
But
he didn't come around.
But he's from the. I think it has to come from the real inner circle, though, because didn't Baba say that Judas gains God realization?
That's why you would almost think like someone that like.
You know,
like Elizabeth, who was the one that drove the car, would be the like from just the archetypal thing of the person that brings the physical suffering to the avatar. If that's what that
heavy,
really
man.
is.
That's.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that's the case.
No, but
I'm just saying think about it for a minute. You know
who would know this? Jeff McGuire, I bet. You think?
No.
Bauji would be the person to ask in a letter.
Yeah, but
I tell you,
or Adi K. Irani, like there at the end, how Baba would not see Adi.
Oh, poor Adi was just.
Yeah. No, but Adi had been with Baba since he was a teenager.
I was hoping a little bit some of that. I'm trying to burn that up so it won't be burning when we leave.
Yeah.
It's a 3-hour log, and I'm trying to hasten it. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, Adi was really suffered in a certain period of time where, what did Baba tell him, that he couldn't see Baba or something for a while, or?
Well, Baba sort of kept him at a distance the last few years.
Baba wouldn't even see him.
No.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even see him.
And Adi, I think,
for the last 4 years?
Last few years.
Adi would sob.
Adi didn't even see Baba for 4 years.
Baba would call him and then he would say, "Why are you late?" and and send him standing under the tree. Baba was just very harsh with him at the end. It was blown his mind because he was thinking, I've been with Baba all my life, and now he's treating me like I can't do anything right.
He's been with Baba, since Manzalini.
Yeah.
Manzalini? Yeah, he was.
Well, Adi was with him a long time.
Adi was at Adi K.
Adi K was one of the
20s.
Adi K was at Manzalini.
Yeah.
So on September 19th, Bailey came to see Baba. Later, a new hand-drawn rickshaw arrived for Baba's use, and G.M. Shah, a photographer in Ahmednagar, was called to photograph the master seated in it. Shah also photographed the Meher ashram building and the school boys. On other occasions, another local photographer, S.S. Dean, would be called to photograph Baba. Meanwhile, Burjar Dahiwala arrived at Meherabad on September 25th. Rao Sahib had gone to Bombay for some work, so Baba himself gave a bath to each of the boys that day. K.J. Dastur left for Bombay 3 days later. One day, a large gift parcel of sweets arrived. Baba gave a small amount to Sidhu and then asked him to gather the boys. While on the way to get them, Sidhu ate his share of the sweets. When he returned with the boys, Baba asked, "Where is the sweet I gave you?" Sidhu innocently replied that he had eaten it. Baba exclaimed, "You shameless idiot! When the children have not had any, you have already finished your share? Vomit it up."
Ooh.
What? Vomit it up?
Vomit it up.
Oh my God.
To induce vomiting, Sidhu put 2 fingers in his mouth. Seeing this, Baba silently laughed and asked him to stop, for he was joking.
And this was Sidhu?
Yeah.
No, Sam, no.
Yeah.
The Pam.
I'm right here on the big thing on October. That fire is fantastic, Fred.
Yeah, it sure gives heat better than the gas.
On October 4th, Rustam's wife, Raini, who was then in her 9th month of pregnancy, came to Meherabad for her weekly visit to see Baba. Soon after she returned to Ahmednagar, she gave birth to a baby girl, whom she named Mera after her sister. The child was later called Meru. Baba's old paternal uncle, Kudadad, arrived on October 8th and enrolled his 2 grandsons in the ashram school. In this way, a number of the of the Baba's young relatives were under his direct spiritual guidance. One day an urgent message was received from Karachi that Pilamai had started fasting, taking only water. Her reason was that despite his promise, Baba had still not visited Karachi. Baba sent her a telegram instructing her to stop the fast at once and begin eating, but Pilamai refused. Baba then sent the following cable to her. "You are my spiritual sister. I am beyond promises, and he or she who tries to bind me to my promises is neither my brother nor my sister. I am pleased only when my slightest wish is carried out without question. I order you to take food, and will see you if you dare not do it." Receiving this message, Pilamai immediately broke her fast and wrote Baba for Baba's forgiveness. Exams at the school were given on October 20th. The Hindu Diwali holidays were granted from October 23rd to 27th. The school was closed during these 4 days, and various activities for the children were arranged by Chanji and other teachers. Cricket matches were organized, and singing and dramatic performances provided entertainment. On October 25th, Baba went with the boys and the mandali for a picnic to a place 2 miles from Arangaon. There tea was served, and Baba relaxed by playing chess with Chanji. Gulmai arrived and invited Baba to Kushru quarters for dinner in the evening. The next morning Baba was bathed at 9 o'clock. In the evening a kirtan singer performed. Afterwards fireworks were lit and a play was enacted. On November 2nd, Baba ordered all the boys not to speak with anyone except their teachers, and with them only during classes. From that day, Borkar Dahiwala began giving lectures to the students. A special seat was arranged for him, and an umbrella was held over his head. He would lecture in a pompous tone, and amenities such as fruit and special meals were given to him. This special treatment was an example of the master's leela, play or game. At times, Baba would treat a person in the respectful manner in which the individual wished to be treated, making sure that his ego was not bruised. In fact, Baba would often encourage these people and build up their egos. Yet he would also gradually create situations whereby the persons concerned would automatically be made aware of their expanding conceit. An onslaught upon the ego would then begin. In this manner, life with the master meant the ego's exposure to both pleasure and pain. There's a footnote.
Merciless.
How can one be so? How can it be so merciful and merciless at the same time?
I talked about Papa like that. I was going to tell the joke on Saturday, but maybe I should tell it now.
Sure.
Okay, three people, they die and they go. Who's at the gate? St. Peter? St. Peter. The 3 people there at the gate, St. Peter. And the first person comes. Peter says, "Tell me about you." He says, "Well, I did a lot of good work in my life. I served on boards and committees, and I just did lots of good work in my life." So Peter says, "Come on in." Next person comes. St. Peter's what? He says, "Well, I made a lot of money during my life, but I used it for good causes. Yeah, I showed that I did good things with all of my money." Come in, St. Peter. Third person. He says, "Oh, I don't know what it is. I tried all my life, but I just could never seem to get it together." St. Peter goes, "Jay Baba."
Yes, that's very, very appropriate.
Jay Baba.
And the footnote is...
The footnote is just that at one period there were fights and arguments between Borkar Dahiwala and Angel Pleader. These situations were inwardly created by Baba to battle the egos of the 2 men against each other.
The name Borkar is sort of connotes a guy that looks like you'd want to pick on. Hey, yeah. Borkar. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't remember that guy who was the head of health and welfare. What was his name? That guy with the beard, the general.
No, Bork.
See ever Coop?
No, Bork.
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 Bork. page are you on?
Freni is Meher's sister.
968.
Okay.
Okay, Freni is Meher's sister, and Rustam is Adi's brother.
Adi Kairani.
Adi
Right.
Kairani's brother.
So she wasn't a blood relative of Baba's. Meru.
No.
She was related to Mera.
Right.
She was cousin of Mera.
Niece.
Niece of Mera.
Yeah. Have you read The Silent Word? I mean, because it talks about, it's done in
Family tree.
Yeah. But I mean, it's talking about the wedding and how Mehra didn't want to get married, you know what I mean? Because her sister was marrying, and so they thought, well.
Okay, here's a little squabbling that went on. This happened in the case of Borker. For some time his pride and self-respect prospered, but then after a month of lecturing, Angel-Pleader was appointed to take his place. Angel was the opposite type of person, quite humble and unassuming. Observing him, Borker gradually became reserved and less egotistical. At the back of it all was Baba, steadily guiding both men onto the path, but in different ways. Eventually, Borker too became humble and was rewarded with rays of enlightenment. On November 3rd, Sailor delivered several crates of books for the students, which Baba kept beside his seat on Meherabad Hill. That night, Baba arranged the books in rows and stacked them in specific piles, forbidding anyone to touch them. While observing him, it seemed as if Baba was soaking them in the wine of his love. While observing him, it seemed as if Baba was soaking them in the wine of his love, pouring the required measure for every child into each book. The following day, Baba personally handed the books to each student, thereby giving an inner push to their minds towards knowledge and their hearts towards loving God. Later that day, the topic of literature arose, and Baba was asked who his favorite authors were, especially poets. He indicated Hafiz in Persian and William Shakespeare, John Milton, and Percy Bysshe Shelley in English. Shakespeare is presently reincarnated in India. He is now a Brahmin taking a leading part in politics, but one of the most sincere, selfless workers for the country.
Wow.
His thought force of the past has now been transformed into action. He was a genius, and all the controversies over whether he was the original author of his works are meaningless. He wrote all the plays, no one else. It was entirely the result of his giant intellect. There is not a wind of the spiritual in all his dramas and poetry, yet he was a genius. The writer Kalidas would rightly be called India's Shakespeare. Milton was spiritually advanced, but did not attain beyond the second plane in the subtle world. He could... I'm sorry, do you want me to read the footnote as it comes up?
Yes.
Okay, back up. Kalidas would rightly be called India's Shakespeare. Kalidas, born during the 5th century, was an Indian dramatist and poet.
Wow.
He is considered the greatest figure in classical Sanskrit literature.
How's that name spelled?
Kalidas.
I gotta
He's
check him
older.
out.
He's older than Shakespeare.
Have you ever read
100 years?
Kalidas?
No, I haven't read it.
I have to know.
What's interesting there is that Baba says there's not a bit of the spiritual in Shakespeare,
But he's a genius.
yet it's one of Baba's favorite writers. I
Yeah.
found that interesting.
Thing is, a lot of people though interpret some of his things like life as a stage as spiritual.
All the world's a stage.
Yeah.
You're only playing.
Yes. So that's like.
But I mean, this is so amazing though that during Baba's life he was reincarnated in India as a politician.
No. As a.
Yeah,
Yes.
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare
Well, he
was a
said he's a
politician.
Brahmin,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but a
Brahmin
politician.
Brahmin politician,
Yeah.
high class.
Nehru. Maybe Nehru was born about that time. He was alive then.
Yeah.
Well, he would have told it was Nehru, wouldn't
Not
he?
necessarily.
Maybe he didn't want to say.
It was Gandhi.
Well, Gandhi was.
I doubt it was Gandhi.
Gandhi
Brahmin.
was. Gandhi was
Well,
very.
Gandhi.
I don't think Gandhi was as eloquent as Shakespeare.
I don't know. Well, I think Baba would have said it was Gandhi, don't you think?
No.
No.
Gandhi was Shakespeare?
Nah, Baba wants us to sit here and ponder over it.
You know who may know though? If you ask some of the, I don't know. I guess not though. That's too early. Ramjoo is not alive.
See, there's no one alive now who was there.
He was there.
No.
Somebody, if you would ask Ramjoo, whoever was alive, they would know.
Khurshid.
Khurshid, that's right. Khurshid
Or
was there.
the Persian guy. What's his Vasily? From ashram guy.
Oh,
He was there with you?
Isfandiar, but he was too young.
He wouldn't understand.
They wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Khurshid is the only one from that time left.
Yes.
She's the
Yeah.
only one from the early Meherabad days.
Yes.
How was she when you were there?
She was
About
good.
the same.
I did visit with her.
At the Kurusha quarter, she was there.
Yeah, she was one of the early. She
Did you-
remembers
did you-
Baba's voice. She
Did
Yeah,
you
sure.
have lunch with her?
Not this time. Not this time. I just visited with her.
You know the procedure you send out for food. And
Chinese.
Yeah.
She likes that
Did she
Chinese.
like Chinese?
Now, Go Hair was around.
You sent out
No,
food?
you only came later.
She lives.
Yeah, but she heard Baba's
She
voice.
lives very
Go Hair.
humbly.
Oh,
Baba's
Baba,
voice.
yeah. Oh, Baba would visit them in Quetta.
Exactly.
When they were little girls,
She
yeah.
cooks her own chapatis and Indian food, but when Westerners come or visitors, they send out for food. Usually, either Indian or she
No,
likes.
she doesn't cook anymore.
She doesn't cook.
No.
But she likes Chinese food, so they bring takeout, and people come and sit around and share, have lunch with her. It's a special time because she will maybe remember a couple Baba stories and so forth.
She's wonderful.
She's in her 80s, isn't she?
Oh, yeah.
At least.
You remember Dali Bastani? She came to LA, and she knew Baba. And she said to me one day, she said, it's such a pity what has happened to Khurshid. Just, when we were younger, all the mandali were so beautiful. All the women were so... She says, such a shame what's happened.
Oh, God.
But it's not like they remember. They remember all women because she used to be with the women mandali.
Yeah.
It's just funny how she just said
Affected
that.
life, old age.
Yeah, but she's the only one that's really put on weight
Oh, yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well,
So they had Chinese
Katie?
food there.
No, Katie.
In the
No,
neighborhood.
no. Katie has lost
They
a
had
lot of
Chinese food in
weight.
the
I know,
neighborhood.
but
Their
she
restaurant
was...
was Chinese food.
got
yeah,
pretty
there's
Not as
a
big as
restaurant
Khurshid,
in
No, no,
Ahmednagar.
But when
apparently
she was
they
Khurshid
cook
is
that.
not mobile, really.
No.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let me finish this about the quote here. It's really interesting. Okay, Milton was spiritually advanced, but did not attain beyond the second plane in the subtle world. He could see heaven and hell, and that was how he was able to write Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. His books about heaven and hell depict the result of his personally seeing them.
Wow.
Shelley, though not spiritually advanced, was a thorough gentleman, a lover of God and nature. But Hafiz not only excelled in spiritual writings, for he was perfect, but also in poetic meters and styles, better than Firdausi or Sheikh Sadi, Shamsi Tabriz, and Jalaluddin Rumi too, were God realized, though Omar Khayyam was not. Do you want me to read the last little bit and then you can finish up?
Oh, please continue.
The following morning, the discussion was resumed in the Mandali's quarters, during which Baba commented on some famous historical figures. Shivaji was the greatest warrior of them all, even greater than Napoleon. Napoleon, though brave and clever, was proud, greedy, and vicious. Shivaji was brave, but less clever than Napoleon, yet Shivaji was not proud or greedy. He was guided in all his actions by his guru, Swami Ramdas. Everything is fair in war, even trickeries, yet Shivaji actually offered his whole kingdom to his guru. He had great administrative powers, pure motives and conduct, hence he was great in every way, the only great king of the Hindus since the time of Ashoka. Ashoka was an Indian emperor of the Maurya dynasty, one of the greatest of the ancient rulers. He brought nearly all of India together. However, sickened of war, he turned from Hinduism to Buddhism, and thereafter professed nonviolence. He sent Buddhist missionaries from India as far as Greece and Egypt, and was largely responsible for transforming Buddhist teachings into a world religion, Buddhism.
Wow. Ashoka.
That
he
was
was probably India's
273
greatest king,
to
they say.
232
Yeah.
BC.
But I see so many Hindus recognizing Ashoka.
Yes. They recognize him as the greatest king.
But he's Buddhist.
Well, he became Buddhist. But they still use his seals, the seals that they use in India, like the
As I see that
many-spoked
name,
wheel.
And
Came and also the
Ashoka
elephant.
means, there's Ashoka, I think, a brand name,
Everywhere.
some product. There's
Yes.
Ashoka, almost hotels and this
And lots of kids are named Ashoka.
Ashoka.
Yeah.
Ashoka.
Yeah, he was.
There's a hotel there.
There's a hotel in Ahmednagar named Ashoka,
Oh.
run by Sikhs.
Oh, is that
Oh.
right? Is that right?
Oh, Sikhs, right? Yeah.
There's some outside India too. I think there's one hotel outside.
Oh, there's probably
Oh, yeah.
many of them.
Is it a big hotel, good hotel?
It's third class. Well, second
No,
class.
the
I
one
guess.
that I know of
Yeah,
is a good one.
It's a first class hotel.
The one.
Yeah.
Which one?
Ashoka.
The
I don't know
Ashok
where it is,
Hotel.
somewhere
Yeah.
outside.
In what city?
No, it's like a
Not in Nagar.
no, not
That's third class.
right. Not
He's
the
speaking
one
of
on-
another one.
Yeah, he's speaking of
There
another
is
one.
some
In
other
Asia?
They're
Yeah,
like
it's in
they're
Asia.
like first class hotels.
Oh, I see. There is a chain. Oh, yes, that's right.
Like Sheraton or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like that. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know where it is.
Yes,
but
and they're run by a company out of what country?
I do not know that. But
Probably
I
not.
know
it
of
could
the
be.
hotel.
It could be the
I do not know
Fiji
who.
or the Singapore.
It could be owned by even, Intercontinental or Hilton.
I see, they just
Yeah,
use the name.
The name is there. I do not know who are the owners.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, as to Akbar, he was quite a different case. It was his greatness of spirit, nobleness of heart, that made him great. The great tolerance for the religious feelings of others which he had shows the magnanimity of his heart. And Akbar was 1542 to 1605, was a Mughal emperor in India, an outstanding army general. He added Afghanistan, Baluchistan, and northern India to his domain. His reign was marked by administrative reform, religious tolerance, and with the flowering art and literature.
So that's around the time of, after his son was Shah Jahan.
Well, something confused.
So after Ashoka, he was the second one.
Ashoka was
In the
like
15th century.
But after him, according to Meherabad, he is the second one, right?
no, it was Shivaji was the
Oh.
second one next to Ashoka. Was the
But
most
he was later.
right.
But
He came
Ashoka was
later.
earlier than Shivaji.
Yeah, he was
But
earlier.
Shiva was never a king.
No, this is
Shivaji.
Shivaji. That, I think it was,
Shivaji.
He was never a king.
no.
No,
It was Baba in the
He was
lesser
just fight.
incarnation.
He was just a fighter.
Shivaji, according to people, was an incognito or a
Lesser
lesser
incarnation.
Minor
incarnation
incarnation,
of the avatar.
But he was not a king.
No,
No.
it was a general.
The page 972, the important Hindu day of fasting, Kartika Ekadashi, fell on November 5th. At 2 in the afternoon, the women mandali bathed Baba with cupfuls of warm water near the Duni, followed by the men mandali and boys of Rasahib's class. 3 days before, a Hindu boy named Shiva Narayan arrived to enroll in the school. Although he was one of the youngest boys in the ashram, he was very devout. While Baba was being bathed, Shiva Narayan would dunk his head in the water overflowing from the bath. When asked why he was doing this, he replied, "I am washing away my sins in the holy water of Sri Meherabad's bath." Wow. Can you imagine that scene? I just see that scene. What a beautiful picture. If somebody could capture that in art. A boy dunking his head. Baba stopped the boy, motioning him to sit beside him so that when the water was poured over him, it would fall on Shiva Narayan as well. So he motioned the boy to sit beside him. So they poured the water. That
Was the
night,
water on top of him?
yeah, in other words, Baba was being bathed, they were pouring the water on Baba, and Baba was so touched by this boy who was dunking his head in this basin with Baba's, as the water was overflowing, Baba said, "Sit by me." And so they poured the water, it both covered the boy and Baba.
Well, it would splash from Baba.
Yeah, the water, well, it said the water was poured over him as it would fall on Shiva Narayan as well, yeah. That night, Shiva Narayan insisted on sleeping near Baba. Baba allowed him to sleep beside him for an hour, after which he lay down near Baba's sandals on the floor. The next morning, Baba ordered the boy to observe silence for a period of time. So the more you get into the web of the master, more responsibilities and duties. I mean, he was taking this boy. It was Baba's order that everyone should drink tea from his own cup and eat from his own plate. One day, Bapu Brahman went to Ardeshar for tea with Pendu's cup. As he was delayed in taking the boys to the school, Ardeshar refused to serve him and put Pendu's cup away, keeping it on a shelf. Bapu told Pendu about the incident. When Pendu went to Ardeshar and asked why he did not give tea to Bapu, Ardeshar reminded him of Baba's rule not to use another's cup. Pendu then inquired why he did not return his cup. Ardeshar said he was not going to return it, which irritated Pendu. Bu Sahib happened to come along and sided with Ardeshar. A heated quarrel took place, and Pendu shouted in sheer exasperation, "All Iranians are really jungli, uncouth, stupid." This remark upset Bu Sahib, who complained to Baba, adding that it would not be possible for him to act as manager any longer with an assistant like Pendu. Baba called Pendu and Ardeshar. Pendu explained that they always used each other's cups and plates, so why was it that only today Ardeshar refused to serve tea to Bapu in his cup? Baba turned to Ardeshar and asked, "Why do you use others' plates and cups?" Ardeshar brazenly replied that it was untrue, that he never did. Hearing this blatant lie, Pendu lost his temper and picked up a ladle lying nearby to strike Ardeshar. Baba's brother Bahram interceded and grabbed the ladle from Pendu. Baba became very upset with Pendu for his obvious intention. He scolded Pendu severely for losing his temper, but after a few minutes Baba in a calm manner explained to Pendu, "It is not befitting to get so angry. He who fails to control his temper is a weakling. To conquer anger is true courage. A commander of an army may rule the entire country, but he may not be able to control his own temper." Baba then transferred Pendu from being Bu Sahib's assistant in Upper Meherabad to becoming Rustam's assistant in Lower Meherabad, where Rustam was the manager of the mandali. From this time on, Pendu would walk up the hill every day to give Baba a bath, and then return to his duties at Lower Meherabad. On November 10th, Baba went on a prolonged liquid fast of coffee and milk, continuing it for almost 5.5 months. Later that evening, the anniversary of the Duni was celebrated, the mandali and boys gathering around the Duni as it was lighted. After the ceremony was concluded, there was a continuous rain for 3 days. On November 12th, the boys were taken to Baba in small groups. Baba washed their feet and wiped them dry with a towel, and he gave them medicine to prevent them from catching a cold. K.J. Dastur brought up a complaint about the other teachers, maintaining that they were causing so much noise that he was disturbed in his own classroom. Baba had his class moved some distance away from the others. To his surprise, Meherji Kakaria failed in his engineering exam. Therefore he came to stay at Meherabad on November 14th, and Baba appointed him the English teacher. You know Meherji, remember him?
Yeah.
That same day, Baba relieved Padri of teaching Persian, and he himself began teaching the class. Baba teaching. Communicating through the alphabet board with Rao Sahib, would read out to the students. Although it appeared that Baba was teaching Persian, there was a greater significance underlying his playing the role of a teacher while silent. The master was not really teaching, but was pouring wine, divine love, through his glances, creating in the children thirst for God. Besides being the recipients of the master's divine love, the students received a high standard of worldly education, learning in 1 month what would normally have taken 1 year to learn elsewhere. In spite of being on a fast, Baba would play with the boys, and he was attentive to everything that went on in the school. On November 17th, Baba expressed his wish to open a bhakti ward of Sahak ashram, an ashram for seekers. The work of erecting this structure to be located next to Baba's underground crypt cabin on Meherabad Hill promptly began. The arrival of the 14 boys from Persia in July brought in its wake the arrival of many other Muslim boys from Bombay, including 11-year-old Ali Akbar Shah Purzaman, later nicknamed Alola. So he came from Bombay. Among the 14 boys from Persia was another named Ali Akbar, who had the most intense spiritual nature. During this period, Ali Akbar began expressing great love and devotion for Baba. He was later nicknamed Majnun. Majnun. That's from that love story, isn't it? Majnun and Leela? Wow. On November 21st, a teenage boy named Syed Ali Haji Mohammed, later nicknamed Aga Ali, was brought to Meherabad by his father, but Baba refused to admit him. Baba did not want the boy in the school, but after the father entreated Baba to keep the boy, Baba agreed. There was a sound reason for Baba's reluctance, which was brought out later. Later that day, B.F. Barucha, who had heard about Meher Baba for some time, showed up in the afternoon to meet the great master. The conversation opened with Barucha asking abrupt and direct questions and receiving similar replies. Is there going to be a great war in the near future? Yes, Baba dictated. A war much greater than the last, with terrible bloodshed. Why would you allow the war to commence and go on? Barucha asked. For pleasure. Why should you allow such an outright massacre of mankind? It is my will, wish, craze. Why are you so quiet? Why not speak? My choice. Wow. But Baba answered. Here's Baba's answers. Yes, Baba dictated, a war much greater than the last with terrible bloodshed. For pleasure, it is my will, wish, craze, my choice. Wow.
But that's just Baba's reacting to this particular guy.
Here is now, it says, Baba's curt replies upset the man, and he rose to leave, disappointed in the so-called great master. Baba pacified him and asked if he had time to listen to what he would explain. Barucha agreed, saying he would leave by a later train. So Baba took him aside in private with Rao Sahib and Nusawan Sata and explained many things to him, which in the end appeased him. The Khada, or crypt cabin in Upper Meherabad, this structure later became the master's tomb. That's how it looked. I mean, it's just a little grass hut.
I remember, that's why I asked earlier if it said who was this guy that came, the sadhu that came or something, because you know that guy Paul Bruton?
Paul Bruton.
During that period, came there and saw Baba in the underground with the little, and just couldn't believe it. He thought, because he was used to going to all this.
I think they would mention these. I think they would, if it was a Westerner, though, don't you think?
I would think so, but this was about that period. I don't know. But I'm saying, but like a lot of people would come and Baba would like put him off. But here's a
The following day, November 22nd, Baba's childhood friend Bailey arrived from Pune with all his belongings and began staying in Meherabad, thus rejoining the mandali after quite a while. Meher Baba began giving spiritual discourses to the boys every evening from November 23rd. Baba would talk, dictating his explanations on the alphabet board for almost 2 hours at a stretch. He would be seated inside in the upper portion of his underground crypt room, and the boys in mandali would gather outside on the platform by the east window. At times, Baba would also use hand gestures to convey his thoughts. And Bauji writes, every silent word touched each heart, as his words were hidden with wine. While discoursing, Baba would explain the purpose of creation, the stages of evolution and involution, the subtle and mental planes, and the heavens, or sections of the planes. He also explained the universe's innumerable suns and moons and planets, the evolving states of gas, stone, metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal, and human forms, the states after death, heaven and hell, yogis, saints, gurus, and the avatar, God intoxication and the muss, divine love and devotion, and many other spiritual points. He would explain mystical knowledge, esoteric wisdom, in such an unassuming, easy, but interesting manner that not only would the boys understand it completely, but simultaneously their hearts would open and they would become restless in the turmoil of love. Gradually, divine intoxication began overpowering them, and from the worldly standpoint, they began to act in a peculiar manner. Just covering that paragraph was so much. The students clearly found a vast difference between the lectures of Borkar Daiwala and Angal Pleader and the discourses of Meher Baba. As a consequence, they began to pay little attention to the teacher's utterances and desired only to be near the master and concentrate on what he revealed. Within days, Meherabad's atmosphere underwent a complete metamorphosis. Bauji, the wine began speaking with the inception of the master's silent discourses. Meher Baba gave discourses to the children, often using similes and analogies to illustrate his points. On December 18th, Baba brought out a doll and explained the progression of evolution. Bending the head of the doll downward and folding all its limbs inside, Baba stated, "This is the state of inanimate objects in the world, such as stones, rocks, and minerals. Life is there, but it is curled up like the doll, and you cannot see it. Everything is latent." Unfolding the doll's arms and legs, Baba pointed the legs toward the sky and explained, "This is the state of the soul in the plant form. Its mouth is at the roots, and its legs or branches are in the sky." Baba brought the legs down and placed the doll on all fours, indicating that the doll was now in the animal form. Finally, Baba made the doll stand on its own two legs and explained, "Soul has now reached the state of a human being. This is the final and highest form." To illustrate the working of sanskaras, Baba one day took a mirror out of his coat pocket and explained, "Suppose this mirror represents the mind sanskaras, while Chaitanya is unconscious consciousness. Now the moment Chaitanya is created in the unconscious mind, it arouses the sound sleep of God to know itself. Also at the moment sanskaras begin. The mirror which was placed aside now begins to move toward the eyes." Drawing a diagram on the chalkboard to illustrate his point, Baba continued, "One of the first movements of consciousness takes the mirror to the stone form, where only a corner of the mirror falls within the boundary of one's vision. The next movement to the vegetable form brings a greater area of the mirror within sight. The next to the worm, fish, bird, and animal kingdoms brings a still greater area into view. Then the final movement toward the human form brings the entire area of the mirror before the eyes, and one sees his own reflection therein, and believes the reflection, the shadow of the self, to be the real self or I, which is not true. So the mirror, which was slanted with the evolution of forms, is slowly brought upright with heightened consciousness, but the soul, instead of seeing itself inside and towards its own body, sees into the reflection in the mirror, and what it sees is illusion. So what should it do now to see the self? It must remove the mirror, not only remove it, but destroy it. That is, one must destroy the sanskaras which create illusion. If you do not destroy them, they remain as they are and present themselves again and again whenever you take birth. For example, the mirror is there, even when you have left bodies after bodies and taken another. Therefore, remove the mirror of sanskaras and see your own real self." Thus, although silent, Meher Baba beautifully described creation and other themes to the children in a way they could easily assimilate and remember. On one occasion, the master emphasized to the boys, "Remember, you are not the body. You are soul, spirit." He urged them, "Try to stop thinking you are the body. Try to stop thinking you are energy. Try to stop thinking you are mind. Think, I am soul, I am spirit." And the boys actually did try. One boy was found shouting to his body that it was not real. Oh, here's the picture of Ali. I mean, look at Ali. Isn't he
Yeah.
beautiful looking child? And he's so regal.
Didn't Baba bring him to the West?
He brought one named Ali, I think it was him.
He's the hero in the book Sobs and Throbs.
Sobs and Throbs, yeah.
Agha Ali.
And also,
Ali. I'm trying to think who it
there was
was.
when Agha Ali.
You are
was the
not
guy
real.
that went on
You
the-
are not real.
That's so cute.
Agha Ali was the guy that didn't Baba put him on the fifth plane or something? It was
Something.
Yeah, it'll all come.
Who was the one that kept running, like his dad kept
This
coming
is-
to get
this
him?
is it.
That's him, right?
This is it. And he
That's
kept coming
Ali.
back.
So
yeah.
Aga Ali and Ali are the same.
Oh, Acha.
That's what I'm asking. Is that true?
Yes, Ali.
Yes.
Yeah, Ali. He's the
And
same.
Agha Ali.
Yeah, he's the same. Agha
Yeah,
Ali.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because you've seen his
Because
picture.
Agha means great.
Yes,
No.
right.
Yeah.
On another occasion, Baba asked them, "What is higher than the clouds?" The puzzled children looked at one another, unable to answer. "A mother's love is much higher, and my love is infinitely higher," Baba answered. With the start of discourses on November 23rd, the effects of the Master's wine began. The children drew closer and closer to Baba and were less attentive to their studies. They now preferred to sit in meditation or to be alone and think of Baba. Their appetites at mealtimes noticeably declined. After each discourse, Baba would urge the boys, "Love me and you will realize me. I am ready to make you like Vivekananda, Ramjoo, Ali, and Arjuna. The price I ask is only love. Spirituality is being plundered here, but only real love unlocks the treasure store. Godliness is on auction by me. Be ready to bid everything you own to acquire it." Wow. The discourses had a profound effect on Agha Ali. He would write in his notebooks, "Meher Baba is my master. Allah Agha Ali, the son of Meher Baba. The book belongs to the humble slave of Sri Sadguru Meher Baba." The boy expressed his heart's message in pebbles on the ground, and he had a special fondness for collecting things belonging to Baba and used by him. He would save Baba's fingernails, his hair, and the cotton Baba would put in his ears at night. Bauji writes, "The soul was aching with longing. On the boy's lips, while bursting in his heart, was the song of the Master, silently sung of the divine beloved and eternal love." On November 25th, Meher Baba discoursed to the ashram boys about love for God. God is within you, and you have to search for him within. But how can you search? By trying to create love for him in your heart. Once a person's feet are firmly set on the path, he progresses toward the goal. Love can be compared to hunger in the following manner. Let hunger symbolize love. Thoughts of eating food symbolize constant thoughts of God. Trying to obtain food may be compared to restlessness and longing for God. The help of a mother symbolizes the help of a Sadguru, and actually eating a meal symbolizes attaining God realization. Just as appetite is necessary before one takes food, so love must be created before one can realize God. Once the appetite is there, thoughts of eating begin to come incessantly. Similarly, when love for God is produced, one begins to think consciously, continuously, of Him. In both cases, striving begins. A hungry boy seeks food and a secret searches for beloved God. The consequent labors bring the former in contact with a cook or his mother, and the latter into the realms of the master. In the due course of time, both achieve their respective goals. This is a befitting example, but it is, after all, only an example. Love is not as easy to create as appetite, and a master is not so quickly found as one's mother. How will you create love? Instead of crying for love, you must shed your blood for the beloved. This is love, the highest state of love. Is anyone among you like that? No one. But don't worry, still try to love. I will end at that on page 980.
Cheba.
Cheba. Wow.
Give Freddie a second to...
Okay, today is the 26th of January.
Up here?
And the other page there. Okay. And we're on what page is it?
It's page 980.
Okay, this is Lord Meher, Volume 3, the autobiography of Avatar Meher Baba by beloved Mao Kalchuri. So we'll begin.
Okay. After the discourse, Baba commented about his favorite poet, Shams al-Din Hafiz. Hafiz, who was widely known throughout the literary world as a great poet, was also a kutab, a perfect master of his age. There are hundreds of thousands of people in Persia and India who rely upon his work for divine guidance. There are numerous instances in history when momentous decisions were arrived at after consulting the Divan-e-Hafiz, the collection of Hafiz poems. The practice of referring to it for advice is still very common to this day.
Oh yeah, what's the guy, Paul Smith? There's a Divan Hafiz over there.
Well, no, but
this is huge, though. I've seen that one.
No, I've seen it too.
This is, what's his name, though? Daniel Ladinsky.
Oh yeah. No, there's a different one too. There's a guy named Paul Smith or something.
Oh yeah, the huge.
Yeah, and I have that one. And what you do is you ask a question and you open it. And you read what it is. And usually it's right on.
But Baba will do the same thing, though.
The practice of referring to it for advice is still very common to this day. Even the answering of the question of Hafiz's burial was decided after consulting the advice of his own compositions. Yet there are very few who understand the spiritual secrets which are revealed in his poetry. In fact, Khawaja, the master, Hafiz, has clearly narrated one by one all the stages of spirituality in his divan. Excuse me. Every complete ghazal refers to a certain spiritual state and stage for one who can understand it. The following day, November 26th, Baba played cricket with the boys. Then, after the bell had rung for classes, Baba noticed Buana Sahib and Borkar sitting idly and talking. Baba took Buana Sahib to task, criticizing him. You complain about Rao Sahib and others breaking orders when you yourself break them. Baba later remarked, Borkar is not a spiritual man. He is only practicing yoga and asanas, yogic postures, and thinks himself to be spiritual. Let Angar Pleader be appointed in his place. This was done from 1st of December. Angar used to travel to Meherabad by horse tonga each morning. Near his house lived a young man up 20 by the name of G.P. Etke. Excuse me. Etke would observe Angar leaving each day, and he once asked the tonga driver where Angar was going. The man told him to Meherabad, where an Irani saint lives. Etke had recently received a postcard informing him that a job was waiting for him at another town. He thought that before beginning his new job, it would be propitious to take the darshan of a saint. One morning, he asked the Tanga driver if he could go with him to Arangan. The driver agreed, and Edke sat up front with him while Angar rode behind. When they arrived, Baba was sitting by the jokti. Beckoning him over, Baba asked him who he was and what he was doing. Edke replied by taking the postcard out of his pocket and handing it to Baba, who asked Vishnu to read it out loud. After he did, Baba instructed Vishnu, soak it in kerosene and burn it. Baba then informed Edke, "We have a high school here and need a teacher. If you wish, you can start tomorrow." Edke readily accepted. From then on, every morning Edke would walk from his home in Meherabad. The first day he met Baba coming down the hill around 7 o'clock with Kaki Shahani holding an umbrella over Baba's head. When Baba saw him, he instructed, "Never lay a hand on any of the students. Don't scold them either. Just teach them from the bottom of your heart, and don't worry if they do not listen to you." Edke began teaching English and Marathi in the school, but he soon found out that the boys would only write Baba's name over and over again in their notebooks and on their chalk slates. Not one student seemed to be paying any attention to the lessons, which seemed rather peculiar to the new teacher. In the evening of November 26, Baba gave the following discourse to the mandali. Mark, my throat is getting
Maybe Freddie, you want to read?
Okay, why don't you get to your tea?
No, I'm good.
Next page, Joyce.
You bring the mug yourself? Is that your mug?
Yeah, what is it?
The following day, November 26th, Baba played cricket with the boys. Then after the bell had rung for classes...
Baba's giving a discourse, so it's...
Right at the bottom of the page.
Okay,
I read that page already.
Oh, this page?
Right.
Oh, okay. Page 982.
Right, this is a discourse about...
Okay, in the evening of November 26th,
Yes, that's it.
Baba gave the following discourse to the mandali.
Right.
Childhood is the ideal period of life in which to take an interest in spirituality. The impressions received at a young age become deeply ingrained. Divine beauty, grandeur, and bliss should always be impressed upon children, so much so as to fire their imaginations to the highest pitch about God and His greatness. The boy's enthusiasm for God, however wild, should never be curbed. On the contrary, the best attempts should be made to create in the boys a deep-rooted longing for divine upliftment. Never mind if all the boys go mad with uncontrollable enthusiasm and impulses about spiritual matters. The aim of this institution is more to create divine mad ones than academic degrees, and I prefer the former to the latter. Wow, that's my kind of school. Of course, all the boys could not be expected to become saints like Duruva and Palhad, which are explained here in the footnote, 982. Duruva was a Hindu saint in India. Prahlad was a king who was devoted to God in the form of Vishnu. But certainly some of them will take to the spiritual life in the later period of their lives. The rest will also follow after some lifetimes, if not earlier. The result of the present training will fructify in the end in all cases. Even if temporary impulses and sparks of enthusiasm about God realization hold some result, it is like a cash balance in one's account in the bank, which is utilized beneficially at some time or another in connection with one's spiritual advancement. Adults rarely attain lasting enthusiasm or longing. When I give a fascinating discourse or logical explanation about divine grandeur or spiritual bliss, even adults certainly become fired up with a longing to search for truth and to fathom the secrets of the universe. But unhappily, their ardor and enthusiasm do not last long. The impulse of the moment rises and falls quickly into the absence of instant results. However, if a man were to advance toward truth, experiencing different aspects and novelties of the path, his enthusiasm would remain pitched at the same level. Seeing ordinary sights or having extraordinary experiences I say again, seeing extraordinary sights or having extraordinary experiences maintains the longing for truth, but puts great obstacles in front of the real advancement. A strong tea provides a very good stimulant to the tired nerves, but it causes no real improvement in health. On the contrary, the general health is usually undermined with strong stimulants. Therefore, a person should not strive after the novelties, lights, and powers of the path, which are many. The goal of life, the realization of truth, should always be the only longing and desire of anyone. But even the temporary impulses of adults are not to be considered insignificant. However small or little the attempt in connection with finding the truth, and whether physical or mental, it forms a valuable asset. The varying impressions of sin and virtue are spent, but spiritual impressions are not, and always remain to one's credit. Ever increasing. I'll read that again. The varying impression of sin and virtue are spent, but spiritual impressions are not, and always remain to one's credit, ever increasing but never decreasing. Hence, even the best attempts should be made for the temporary impulses to be expressed also. A few stand the chance of contracting permanent longing through chance contemplations in spite of their advanced age. Enthusiasm, inner impulses, and even temporary longings are to be welcomed, as they often prove to be stepping stones to real love. Baba again went to see the Pimplegan Lake the following morning, November 27th. Have you guys ever visited that?
No, but that's by Meherabad side.
Yeah, I walked with Meru. We walked right on the shores.
You can see it. You can see it from the road, but yeah.
Meru took this walk, I guess she does a couple times a year, to the village. And she asked us to accompany her. We had the privilege. It was wonderful. On his return in the afternoon from the lake, Baba stopped at Akbar Press in Ahmednagar, where he made a puzzling remark. Note today's date. Today is the day of my death. It's November 27th. The Mandali and the Sata family were dismayed, but Baba would not elaborate upon this. Later in the day, he commented on one of his favorite subjects, poetry. He further explained about Hafiz and certain other great poets. Hafiz never actually wrote poetry. He only spoke it out loud when in the mood, or he sang it. Shams-e Tabriz, too, did not even ever write, but Jalal al-Din Rumi did. In his odes, Hafiz describes with poetic beauty the charms of the universe, the plains, the path, and he reveals secrets. Tukaram, Kabir, Shams-e-Tabriz, and Rumi were all God-realized or perfect masters, and said splendid things, but none so splendid as Hafiz in language and poetic diction. The next morning around 10:30, Baba explained to the boys, At first it was my intention to advance you gradually on the path, but considering the spiritual outburst that takes place in the world during certain ages, I've changed my mind as that time is very near. From among you boys I am going to immediately advance a few who are ready to be consumed in the light of love. So make your hearts restless to taste this wine of love. But your efforts should not be forced, they should be natural. During your spare time, exclusive of study, meals, plan and rest periods, create love by remembering me. Ask yourself again and again, when will the Master put me in the line? When will I see God and be united with God? What lies there in the path? There's Baba dressed as a farmer. Several times in the course of the day, the Master would embrace, kiss, or pat the boys. He would play with them, serve them food, and keep watch over them during the night. On one occasion regarding the school and the ashram, Baba remarked to Chanji, Why all this bother? It is just to create a few real lovers of God and one real hero. And for only that, such a big headache. You will never be able to understand its worth. in spite.
It's kind of profound, what Baba is saying. I mean, but this is really the whole purpose of the Prem Ashram. Really, was that, and he says that they should focus on him.